Some people say money cannot buy happiness, but let me tell you, losing something you worked so hard for sure can steal it away in an instant. Standing in our empty garage that Tuesday morning, staring at the oil stain where my 2012 Honda Civic used to sit, I felt my world shift beneath my feet. That car was not much to look at with its faded blue paint and worn seats, but it represented 2 years of weekend shifts at the local coffee shop, countless nights counting tips, and the pride of owning something that was truly mine. That empty space in our garage taught me more about family loyalty than any conversation ever could. Before I tell you how my perfect relationship with my dad crumbled over 4 wheels and an engine, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button if you have ever felt taken advantage of by someone you trusted, and do not forget to subscribe because this story gets pretty intense. Now let me take you back to that Tuesday morning when everything changed. My name is Autumn, and at 26 years old I thought I had life figured out reasonably well. Working at a small marketing agency in Portland, Oregon, I earned enough to contribute to household expenses while saving for my future. Our neighborhood sat comfortably in the middle-class range with tree-lined streets and houses that had seen better days, but still held their charm. I had been living with my dad Richard since Mom passed away 3 years earlier, and honestly it felt like the right thing to do. He seemed lost without her, and I could not bear the thought of him rattling around in that big house alone. The Honda Civic was my pride and joy, even though it was far from perfect. I had saved every penny from my part-time job at Brewhaven, the coffee shop near campus, where I worked weekends during college and kept the job afterward. 24 months of car payments, and it was finally completely mine. The leather seats were cracked from Oregon sunshine, and the radio occasionally decided to work only on AM stations. But when I turned that key every morning, I felt independent. Free. Like I could go anywhere I wanted. Dad had been acting strangely lately, though I pushed those observations to the back of my mind. Richard had always been the steady one in our family, the guy who paid bills on time and kept detailed spreadsheets of household expenses. But recently I noticed him checking his phone, constantly taking mysterious calls in the backyard, and seeming distracted during our usual dinner conversations. When I asked about it, he would wave me off with something about work stress or adjusting to life without Mom. Our house was a 2-story colonial that Mom had fallen in love with 15 years ago. She spent countless weekends painting shutters and planting flowers, turning it into something special. The mortgage payments were manageable when both my parents worked, but after Mom died, things got tighter. I started contributing more to household expenses, which seemed fair since I was living there rent-free. Tuesday morning arrived with typical Portland drizzle, and I bounded down the stairs at 6:45 a.m., travel mug in hand, and ready to tackle another day at the agency. But when I pushed the button to open our garage door, my heart sank. The space where my car should have been was empty, just concrete stained with old oil spots and the faint smell of gasoline. My first thought was that Dad had borrowed it again. He had done this twice before when his truck needed repairs, though he usually asked permission first. I pulled out my phone and sent him a quick text. "Hey, did you take my car this morning? Need to get to work." Then I called an Uber, watching $25 disappear from my checking account as the driver navigated morning traffic. At work, I kept checking my phone, but Dad had not responded to my message. This was unusual because he typically answered texts within an hour, especially on weekdays. By lunchtime, a gnawing worry had settled in my stomach. I called him directly, and when he finally picked up after 4 rings, I could hear something strange in the background. "Autumn, sweetheart, how are you?" His voice sounded relaxed, almost too relaxed, with music and laughter drifting through the phone. "Dad, where are you and where is my car?" "Oh, I am in Scottsdale, Arizona, visiting with some old friends. We decided to take a little trip." Scottsdale. I racked my brain trying to remember him mentioning any plans to travel, any old friends in Arizona, any reason he would need to leave town during a work week. Nothing. "What about my car, Dad? I had to take an Uber to work this morning." There was a pause, and I could swear I heard a woman laughing in the background. "Oh, I will explain everything when I get home, sweetheart. I should be back by the weekend." Something cold settled in my chest. The casual tone, the evasive answer, the background noise that sounded more like a resort than a friend's house. "Dad, I need my car. I have to work. I have obligations." "We will figure it out, Autumn. Everything will be fine." The call ended, leaving me staring at my phone in disbelief. In 30 minutes, my secure world had developed a crack that I could not ignore. That evening, I decided to investigate. Dad had always been meticulous about paperwork, keeping important documents in a filing cabinet in his home office. When I pulled out the folder labeled Auto, my hands were shaking slightly. Bank statements, insurance papers, maintenance records, and then crumpled at the bottom of his wastebasket a bill of sale. My Honda Civic, sold to Pacific Northwest Auto Sales for $5,200. The date was 2 days ago Monday morning while I was at work. I sat on his office chair staring at that piece of paper until the words blurred together. He had sold my car. My car that I had worked for, saved for, made payments on with my own money. Without asking me. Without telling me. While I was at work trusting him, going about my normal day. The anger came in waves. First disbelief, then hurt, then a rage so pure it made my hands shake. I called Pacific Northwest Auto Sales immediately. "Yes, we purchased a 2012 Honda Civic earlier this week," the salesman confirmed. "Cash transaction. Is there a problem?" "That was my car," I managed to say. "Well, the gentleman who sold it had all the proper documentation. Title was clear. Sorry, but we have already sold it to another customer." My car was gone. Really, truly gone. With trembling fingers, I logged into our shared checking account, the one we used for household expenses. $4,000 had been withdrawn the same day my car was sold. Combined with the car money, Dad had taken over $9,000 and disappeared to Arizona. When I called Dad back that night, I was no longer the trusting daughter who had spoken with him earlier. I was angry, hurt, and demanding answers. "Autumn, calm down," he said when I confronted him about the bill of sale. The background music was still there, and I could hear clinking glasses and conversation. "I can explain everything." "Then explain. Explain why you sold my car without asking me. Explain where you are and why you withdrew $4,000 from our account." There was a long pause. "I am at a resort in Scottsdale with Jessica. We needed some time away." Jessica, a name I had never heard before. Who is Jessica, Dad? "She is someone I have been seeing, a wonderful woman who has helped me work through my grief over your mother. This trip is important for my mental health, Autumn." I needed to get away and think. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. Not only had he been lying about his whereabouts, he had been hiding an entire relationship. "And you needed my car money for this mental health trip. We needed the money more than you needed a car, Autumn. You are young, you can take the bus or get another car later. This trip was important for my healing." Those words. I will never forget those words as long as I live. We needed the money more than you needed a car. As if my years of work, my independence, my ability to get to my job meant nothing compared to his vacation with a woman I had never met. "Dad, how long have you been seeing Jessica?" "About 6 months. She is a divorce lawyer here in Scottsdale. She has really helped me understand that I need to focus on moving forward instead of staying stuck in the past." 6 months. He had been lying to me for 6 months, pretending to grieve alone while building a new life with someone else. Using our shared resources to fund his secret relationship while I worked extra hours to help with household expenses. The next morning, I started digging deeper into our financial situation. What I found made my blood run cold. Dad had missed the last 2 mortgage payments. The electric bill was 60 days overdue. His credit cards were maxed out with minimum payments left undone. In his desk drawer, I found a foreclosure notice dated a week earlier, giving us 60 days to bring the mortgage current or lose the house. Our house. Mom's house. The place where she had planted rose bushes and hung bird feeders, where she had painted every room and chosen every piece of furniture with such care. Dad was about to lose it because he had prioritized a luxury vacation over our home. I called the mortgage company immediately. The representative was sympathetic, but clear we owed $7,800 to bring the account current plus late fees. With my salary alone, there was no way I could cover that amount and still pay for utilities, food, and transportation. That afternoon, I decided to learn more about this Jessica person. Dad had left his old phone behind, and I remembered his password from watching him unlock it countless times. What I found in his text messages made my stomach turn. Jessica was 42, divorced, and apparently accustomed to an expensive lifestyle. Their text conversations revealed restaurant bills that exceeded my weekly grocery budget, shopping trips to boutiques I could never afford, and constant encouragement for Dad to live a little and stop worrying so much about money. "You deserve happiness, Richard," one message read. "Stop letting guilt about the past hold you back from enjoying life." Another message sent just before their trip. "I have found the perfect suite at the resort. It has a private balcony and spa access. You are going to love it." The most painful discovery came in a conversation from 3 weeks earlier. Jessica had written, "Have you thought more about what we discussed about selling the house and moving here? You could start fresh, leave all those memories behind." Dad had responded, "I am working on it. Autumn will understand eventually. She is young and adaptable." They were planning for him to abandon everything. Our home, our life, our family history, and he thought I would just understand and adapt. I spent the next day trying to find solutions. I applied for 3 different part-time jobs, hoping to increase my income enough to save the house. I called every car dealership in town, hoping against hope that someone had a reliable vehicle I could afford with my limited savings. I researched loan options, mortgage modification programs, anything that might buy us more time. Nothing worked. Every path led to the same conclusion: without Dad's income, and without the $9,000 he had taken, we were going to lose everything. Friday afternoon, I made one last attempt to reach my father's conscience. I called him at the resort, and this time I was prepared for battle. "Autumn, sweetie, I am so glad you called," he said, his voice bright and cheerful. "Jessica and I just had the most amazing couples massage. You should really try to relax more, honey." "Dad, we received a foreclosure notice. The house is going into foreclosure because you have not made the mortgage payments." "Oh, that. Well, we will figure something out when I get back. Maybe it is time for a change anyway." The casual dismissal of our family home, of Mom's memory of everything we had built together, ignited something fierce inside me. A change. "Dad, this is Mom's house. This is where she lived, where she died, where her memory lives. And you want to just walk away?" "Autumn, your mother is gone. Clinging to the past is not healthy. Jessica has helped me see that I need to focus on building a future instead of living in a museum." "And what about me? What about my future? You sold my car, you took our money, and now you are talking about selling our house. Where does that leave me?" There was a pause, and when he spoke again, his voice had an edge I had never heard before. "You are 26 years old, Autumn. It is time you learned to take care of yourself instead of depending on your old man. Jessica thinks I have been enabling you too much. Jessica thinks. Jessica has helped me see. Jessica believes." Every sentence seemed to revolve around this woman I had never met, who had somehow convinced my father that his daughter and his responsibilities were obstacles to his happiness. "We needed the money more than you needed a car, Autumn. You are young, you can take the bus or get another car later. This trip was important for my healing." Those words again. Each repetition made them cut deeper. That night I sat in Mom's garden, surrounded by the roses she had planted and tended so carefully. The foreclosure notice lay in my lap, and I realized that I had 2 choices. I could continue trying to fix Dad's mess with resources I did not have, watching everything Mom loved disappear while he started his new life in Arizona. Or I could fight back. I chose to fight. Saturday morning I began researching property law and estate planning. What I discovered gave me hope for the first time in days. When Mom died, the house had been transferred to both Dad and me as joint tenants with right of survivorship. Legally, I owned half of our home. More importantly, Mom's life insurance policy, which Dad had always controlled, was technically supposed to be split between us. He had been using that money to cover household expenses for 3 years, but the legal documents clearly stated that half belonged to me. I also learned that Jessica had been giving Dad some very specific advice about cutting ties with the past and starting fresh. Her text messages revealed a woman who wanted Dad to liquidate everything in Portland and move to Arizona permanently. She had even found him a condo near hers and suggested he file for a legal separation from his old life. Sunday afternoon, I took action. I called a lawyer who specialized in property disputes and estate planning. After reviewing the documents I had gathered, she confirmed my legal rights and helped me understand my options. "You have every right to protect your interest in the property," she told me. "And given that your father has been using shared assets to fund a lifestyle you did not agree to, you may have grounds for financial recovery as well." That evening I went to Home Depot and bought new locks for the house. Legally, since my name was on the deed, I could change the locks to protect the property. I also began packing Dad's belongings carefully, folding his clothes, and organizing his personal items in boxes that I stacked neatly in the garage. I was not acting out of spite. I was protecting what was left of our family legacy and ensuring that Mom's memory would not be sold off to fund someone else's vacation romance. Dad returned from Scottsdale on Sunday evening, and I heard his truck pull into the driveway at 8:30 p.m. When his key would not work in the front door, he knocked tentatively. "Autumn, sweetheart. My key is not working." I opened the door but kept the chain lock engaged. "Hi, Dad. How was your trip?" "It was wonderful. But why cannot I get in the house? Is something wrong with the lock?" "I changed the locks, Dad. I also packed your things. They are in boxes in the garage." His face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, then anger, then something that looked like panic. "Autumn, what are you talking about? This is my house." "Actually, it is our house. Mom left it to both of us, remember? And since you have decided to start a new life in Arizona with Jessica, I figured you would not mind if I took steps to protect our family home. You cannot just lock me out of my own house. I can protect my legal interest in our shared property, especially when you have been using our shared assets to fund activities I never agreed to." I handed him a folder through the gap in the door. "These are copies of the legal documents my lawyer prepared. Everything I have done is completely within my rights as a property owner." He stared at the papers, his face growing red. "You hired a lawyer, Autumn. I am your father. And I am your daughter, the daughter whose car you sold without permission. The daughter whose college fund you raided to pay for resort suites. The daughter you were planning to abandon so you could start fresh with Jessica." "That is not—" "I was not abandoning you. I was trying to figure out how to move forward. By selling everything Mom loved, by taking my car money for your vacation, by missing mortgage payments while you stayed in 5-star hotels." He slumped against the doorframe. For the first time since Mom died, he looked like an old man. "Autumn, I know I made mistakes, but we can work this out. We are family." "We were family, Dad. But family members do not steal from each other. They do not lie for 6 months about secret relationships. They do not prioritize strangers over their children. Jessica is not a stranger. She cares about me. Jessica cares about your ability to pay for expensive trips and fancy dinners. When was the last time she asked about me? About Mom? About anything that mattered to you before she came along?" He could not answer that question. I handed him keys to the garage through the door gap. "Your things are packed carefully. I did not damage anything or throw anything away, but you made your choice when you chose Jessica and Scottsdale over family and responsibility. Where am I supposed to go? You have options, Dad. You can go back to Jessica in Arizona like you planned. You can get an apartment here in Portland. You can stay with friends. But you cannot continue using this house and our shared resources to fund a lifestyle that excludes me." He stood there for several more minutes, occasionally looking at the legal papers, occasionally looking at me through the gap in the door. Finally, he walked to the garage and began loading boxes into his truck. I watched from the living room window as he made trip after trip, piling his belongings into the bed of his pickup. When he was finished, he stood in the driveway for a long time just looking at the house. He drove away at 11:15 p.m., and I was alone in our house for the first time in 3 years. The silence was deafening at first. Every creak and settling sound seemed amplified, and I found myself listening for his footsteps on the stairs, or the sound of his television in the living room. But gradually, over the following days and weeks, the silence became peaceful instead of lonely. I worked with my lawyer to refinance the mortgage in my name, only using Mom's life insurance money as a down payment to reduce the monthly payments to something manageable with my salary. It was tight, but it was doable. I bought a reliable used Toyota with some of the remaining insurance money, nothing fancy but dependable enough to get me to work every day. Most importantly, I started therapy to work through my feelings about losing Dad, about Mom's death, and about the complex emotions that come with choosing self-preservation over family loyalty. My therapist helped me understand that enabling someone's destructive behavior is not the same as loving them, and that protecting yourself from financial and emotional harm is not selfish. Dad called 3 times in the first month after he left. The first call was angry, full of accusations about lawyers and betrayal, and how Mom would be disappointed in me. The second call was manipulative, full of apologies and promises to change, and requests for just one more chance. The third call was sad, with him admitting that Jessica had broken up with him when he could no longer afford their expensive lifestyle, and asking if he could come home. I did not answer the fourth call or the fifth or any of the calls after that. 6 months later, I heard through mutual family friends that Dad had moved to a small apartment in Scottsdale and taken a job at a car rental agency. Apparently, Jessica had moved on to someone with deeper pockets, and Dad was working to pay off the credit card debt he had accumulated during their relationship. I felt sad for him, but I did not feel guilty. He had made his choices prioritizing immediate gratification over long-term responsibility, choosing a woman he barely knew over the daughter who had been supporting him. The consequences were his to bear. Sometimes the people we love most are the ones who teach us the hardest lessons about self-respect. That empty garage space eventually filled up again with my reliable Toyota, but the empty space where unconditional trust used to live took much longer to heal. Maybe that is okay though, because some lessons are worth the pain they cost to learn. I learned that love without boundaries becomes enabling. I learned that family loyalty should not require sacrificing your own well-being. I learned that protecting yourself from people who would harm you is not cruel even when those people are family. Most importantly, I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to participate in someone else's self-destruction, even when that someone is your father. The roses in Mom's garden bloomed beautifully that spring, tended by someone who finally understood that preserving what matters sometimes requires the courage to let go of what does not. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and protecting yourself? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, because stories like this remind us that we are not alone in facing difficult family situations. Please hit that like button if this story resonated with you, and do not forget to subscribe for more real-life experiences that explore the complicated relationships that shape our lives. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that it is okay to set boundaries with family members, even when it hurts. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that your emotional and financial well-being matter, regardless of who might be asking you to sacrifice them. Until next time, take care of yourselves and the people who truly care about your happiness.